Welcome back to Overtime here on WOTM. Of course, it is Super Bowl week, our final show before the Super Bowl, and we thought to bring our friends in. We've been on their show in a very popular show over in New York, our friends Errol Marks and Speedy Clover. You've known these guys for a long time. You've been able to introduce us to them from your native New York. Tell the people who they can hear from here next little bit.
Yeah, Errol and Speedy, we call Kyle. They have a show that it's on Wednesday and Thursday on Worldwide Sports Radio Network. I did the morning show for them for about 7-8 months before COVID. They are very entertaining guys, and they're very opinionated. And back up in New York, pro football really runs the roof. So
Right.
I think that's where a lot of their opinions come in. It's interesting to hear some of their thoughts on the Super Bowl.
Exactly. All four of us got on a Zoom call a little bit earlier today. Here's your takes on Super Bowl 56.
Guys, what do you think this year? We have the Bengals coming in as a huge underdog. No one expected them to be in. And then we got the Rams and Matthew Stafford, kind of a nice side story. What are your thoughts? Start with you, Kyle.
Rams definitely were one of the favorites at the beginning of the year. Matthew Stafford, it was kind of an all-in type trade that you saw the Rams do. They gave 2 first-round picks, a third-round pick, and Jared Goff, who was part of a Super Bowl team 3 years ago. So the Rams have done a very unconventional method. They're swinging for the fences in a lot of areas. They have stars in some areas and holes in a lot of others, but they've made that kind of thing work this year. You don't see a team turn over this many times and also do well in consistent seasons. They've had 5 straight winning seasons with like roster turnover left and right. And now this year they finally got the big moves going. They were able to get some big playoff wins, and as a 4 seed too, which is pretty hard to do in today's NFL, where you see the buys really matter a lot too. But again, they've had other things improve. They overcome injuries nicely. Cooper Kupp obviously having the insane receiver season he's had. He only had 1 game this year, less than 90 yards. So that has to factor in too. And also their offensive line, their running game getting going late in the season really presents them to be a lot more well-rounded team. As for the Bengals, I don't think anybody saw coming at the beginning of the season. At most, they maybe were thought of as a wild card team by a lot of people, but Joe Burrow's taken his step into superstardom in this league as a young quarterback, a confident guy that is a great leader for this team, a team that still has a lot of areas that they need to build up, like the offensive line, like the secondary, but they have a lot of great pieces around them, receiving depth galore. Joe Mixon is turned into a top 5 running back, and that front 7, very underrated for the Bengals defense too, and has played very well in this postseason. And it's really a nice story, a great culture change you're seeing in Cincinnati, and I love it for their fans.
This is going to be a really interesting Super Bowl. You talk about the Bengals, a very talented team. Joe Burrow has really shown who he is as a player. They call him Joe Cool, and it is really what he does in the pocket is just so special. He was sacked 9 times against Tennessee. It didn't stop him. And then even last week, he was sacked 2.5 times, and he still kept going after him. The second half, he just completely dominated against Kansas City. And then all the way into the overtime where the kicker McPherson just completely dominated. He's hit, I think, 12 or 13 field goals in a row. It's an unbelievable run what the Bengals have done. Their front 7 defensively has played well all year. They've stopped the run, which is so very important in the playoffs. And then you go to Joe Mixon and Jamar Chase and Higgins, who's been a big part of their offense. It's been fantastic to watch. The pressure is really on Matthew Stafford, who, when you look at the big picture and you look at the quarterback play, Matthew Stafford was brought there to win a Super Bowl. They built that team through trading away draft picks. And you talk about Von Miller, you give a second and a third. You talk about Odell Beckham giving up what they gave up. Well, they really signed Odell Beckham. And Matthew Stafford, they gave up 2 firsts, a third, and obviously Jared Goff. So they have no way of rebuilding this team except trying to win a Super Bowl this year. So if they lose, it's a catastrophe. And really, Sean McVay has not proven that he can win the big game. And until he proves that, I think a lot of the pressure lies on the Rams. I think when you look at the quarterbacks, I think the advantage goes to Joe Burrow and the Bengals. I think the running game goes to Mixon and the Bengals. But the defense, the all-around defense, when you talk about Ramsey, obviously Donald, and the players that they have, I think the advantage goes to the Rams. So I think you look at both teams, they're very even. I think the coaching is very even. I would have never thought that the Bengals would be here. So it's very special for the Bengals to be here as short as they didn't expect. But I think they're going to be here a lot with Joe Burrow as long as he stays healthy.
Who do you think stands to benefit the most with a win? Is it Matt Stafford after all the years of disappointment in Detroit? Is it Sean McVay now, a couple of Super Bowls in his first 5 years of coaching? What unit, what group, maybe what person stands to benefit the most after the game on Sunday?
I don't think it has anything to do with legacy. I really don't. I think, obviously, if Joe Burrow wins, you know what Joe Burrow is, and you know what Joe Burrow is going to be in the future. Because if he could get to the Super Bowl this early in his career, and then all of a sudden win a Super Bowl this early in his career, you expect him to win multiple Super Bowls. Matthew Stafford, this has nothing to do with legacy. This has something to do with Matthew Stafford and what he believes he could do as a quarterback in this league. I think there's a lot of pressure on him to win a Super Bowl, but he took this team all the way to the Super Bowl. So you say whatever you want. If he wins, he loses. This is not on Matthew Stafford's legacy. This guy's a Hall of Famer. He's had a very good career. It's not his fault he played for the crummy Lions. So I think in all, I don't think it's legacy. I think Sean McVay loses this game. You're going to look at him and say he can't win the big game. So I think when you give up all those draft picks and you set your team back, I mean, moving forward for the organization, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look bright for Sean McVay.
I think this is two very unique storylines when it comes to the way to build a team. And I think when it comes to the Bengals, the fast turnaround we've seen out of them, they just had the #1 pick 2 years ago, 4 wins last year, like Errol was saying before. And all of a sudden they're in the Super Bowl in a very unconventional building of a team style. And they don't have a true GM. Mike Brown makes a lot of those decisions, just like you see Jerry Jones do in Dallas. And it's very hard to build a team like that, but they were able to adjust to make a modern identity. And the same thing I say about the Rams. I think there was a lot of pressure on their GM, Les Snead, the way they built the team. It's just very unconventional. So if they win, it proves a lot about how quick fixes in today's NFL might be more of a common trend. You're seeing quarterbacks now. If you don't succeed within 2 years, it's done. Same thing with a lot of these coaches. Same thing with a lot of these position players. And if whichever team comes out of this, you're definitely going to see that kind of philosophy work. In terms of Stafford, yeah, I think I'm with Errol. I would say he's a Hall of Famer, even if he wins or loses this game. The championship would probably cement it more, but it definitely is going to say a lot. And it says a lot about McVay as a coach. I think he really has done a nice job building a nice culture here. And if he gets to that Super Bowl, that's definitely something that's going up his legacy. And if he doesn't, then maybe he's still searching for it, especially if the team does end up falling off. But you're right. For Stafford, I don't think that ends up being the case. For Burrow, if they win with the Bengals, it's obviously the start of something that could be really special.
Obviously, lending some really great insight. Two guys that you know really well. They put on a great show. You and I have both been on that show. You've known them for a very long time, and you get a chance to really hear from them, hear their sports opinions, and as you said, they're really, really entertaining.
Yeah, it's fun to be on their show. We've been on a couple times. Wednesday and Thursday, 8 to 11 Central Standard Time, 9 to 12, back on the East Coast. And you got some interesting opinions that it's always a joy to go on. And at least for us to be able to see me having grown up there, I know the culture a little bit, so it's fun to get back to that.
100%, and you can catch them on the website, seeing there, worldwidesportsradio.com, as well as their pages on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, plenty of different ways to get in touch with our friends over there. We're not done with them quite yet. We'll hear those Super Bowl predictions in a bit. We'll also play a little bit of trivia with our expert researcher / historian coming up next.